All right, the debated question. Is the VE better than the Ppump? The answer is yes and no. Is the Ppump better or is the VE better? And in my opinion, neither are better or worse in your application. Do you want to make all the power that you absolutely can out of the engine? You want a Ppump. If you're looking for reliability, both of them are good. If you're looking for the easiest start, the VE is the best. Now, if you're looking, 300-400 horsepower, you just want to do some donuts or, like drive around, tow trucks, just have a little hot rod truck, but nothing super crazy. There's nothing wrong with the VE. Lots of guys always have thrown shade along the VE for many, many years. There's nothing wrong with a VE pump. The engines are cheaper. I can't say the pumps aren't cheaper to build, because if you want a good pump, they are quite expensive to have done because of the amount of stuff that you do to the inside of them. The injectors are basically the same price. Turbos are the same. All the bits and pieces are basically the same because they're the same engine, basically. I want to make all the horsepower. Now, I can't say that you can't make a bunch of horsepower with one of these, because Gavin has, if you don't know Gavin, this is Gavin, or this is his channel. He has made 1,200 horsepower, and I am coming for him. I got some stuff on the go. Truck is all together. We just got to get some testing. I want to put a little bit of road miles on it, and then we're going to put it on the dyno. But he's made 1,200 horsepower with compounds and some nitrous on a VE. And on a Ppump, well, I don't know. I honestly don't even know what the highest horsepower is. It would be a sled pull engine, but like I would imagine well north of 2,500. I'm quite sure of that. So now that's with the right Ppump built, obviously. So if you're getting into, buying one of these, or you already have one of these, you need to sit down and figure out, it's like, okay, what do I want? Do I want a 300 to 400 horsepower, 12 valve truck? Both of these are good. Don't swap this engine out for this engine because you want to make 400 horsepower. If even 500 horsepower, if you're even, 600 might be the switch over for myself. But anything sub 500 myself, I would probably roll with one of these, especially if you have it. If you don't have it, I probably would lean towards a Ppump. Going into, if you want more than that. And depending on the engine that you get, the pump that you have built, all the performance ones, I'm recommending to do a 12.5 mil plunger build, because I've got a couple of those out right now. One in my one truck. Those things are awesome, like phenomenal. I really, really like them. And even on the new engine, which you guys haven't seen yet, I'm building a stroker engine. I'm building a stroker engine for the 3/4 ton because I have to do a whole bunch of towing here in the next 3 or 4 months. And the Ppump 6.7 that's in there right now is a bit too rowdy. So we're going to pull that engine out, imagine that. And we're going to put a stroker 6.1 12 valve back in the truck. The musical engines in that truck, always has been that way. But we're going to do Ppump. I actually thought about doing a VE. Problem is I don't have a performance VE built to do that. So yeah, that's the reason I'm not doing that, because I have all the stuff to do the 6.1 Ppump. So we're going to do a 6.1 Ppump with compounds and such. So, when it comes down to it, if you want best overall reliability, both of these pumps are awesome. If you want cold starts, your VE is by far easier to start in the cold. So if you live somewhere where it's cold, like northern Alberta, it was just minus 40 out, the VE is going to be easier to start. Now, if you have it plugged in with a block heater and an oil pan heater, and it's got a battery minder on it, which you should have, then it doesn't matter. Both of them are going to start when it really comes down to it. It's just the VE does start better. And I do like the characteristics for most guys. They're very easy to tune a VE versus the Ppump. Now, the Ppump's not hard to tune. I just find that most guys have a harder time to tune a Ppump than a VE. So if you're you want to tune it yourself and you've never had anything to do with it and you have a VE, one of these is easier to tune than a Ppump. And like I said, overall power potential, the Ppump is always going to be over top of that. Just is what it is. But when you get into certain instances, so let's talk about black diesel or alternative fuels. Now, if you're going to be running that all the time in the truck, I prefer Ppump versus a VE. Reason for that is the Ppump is lubricated and cooled by its engine oil, and the VE is lubricated and it's fed, lubricated, and cooled by the fuel. So all of the bits and pieces inside the pump, all the cavities, all the little pieces in there are gonna have all of that stuff in there. So if you get black diesel and you haven't cleaned it well enough, which I know lots of guys don't, you're gonna have carbon, dirt, and all that stuff eating away at the inside of the pump because it's all, you know, it's high. They're not super high pressure case wise, but they're considerably more than what the Ppump is inside. The internal case pressure. It turns it into like a sandblasting effect when it really comes down to it. And if you wear the inside of the case on one of these things, the whole pump is now garbage. Well, I shouldn't say the whole pump. Basically, the whole pump is garbage, and now you have to find another pump. Where one of these tend not to do that. You might kill a set of plungers. And on the VE side of it, you know, like this can cost just as much to rebuild as this. Like the last one of these I had rebuilt, it was shrapnel inside, like all the parts were beat inside. And it was expensive. It was like, my cost on it was like $1,600 US, I think it was. I think it was $1,600 US to have it rebuilt because of all the stuff that's shrapnel inside the pump. So take that into consideration. You know, when you're setting your pump in, if it's, you know, my catastrophic inside, it's expensive. And to rebuild one of these, if it needs all the plungers and it needs, you know, a bunch of govern work and all that stuff, they can be very expensive as well. So lots of guys say, oh, well, you know, the 12 valves are way cheaper than a common rail. They're, you know, like if you have problems with them, major problems with them, it can be just as expensive as a set of common rail injectors and a CP3. Now, we're not talking performance ones, but just like in general. Like by the time you do a good pump and a good set of injectors for a Ppump, and then you take a common rail stock injectors with a stock CP3, there isn't that much price difference, especially if there's anything wrong with the Ppump or even the VE for that matter. So really when it comes down to it, depends on what you want. Like if you're talking 300-400 horsepower, both of these things, minty option. Like I said, if you're running black diesel or alternative fuels, I prefer Ppump. Cold starts, VE, my opinion. Yeah. I guess stay tuned. We're going to be putting one of these babies onto a 24 valve because we can.